It was a quiet morning like any other. The kind of morning where everything seemed to fall into place without the slightest hint of trouble. Maria had just finished her coffee and was standing by the window, gazing out at the sleepy neighborhood. The air smelled fresh, the streets still wet from the early rain, and the sound of birds chirping filled the space between the houses. Life was calm, predictable, until the sound of a voice, one that wasn't quite human, cut through the tranquility. Squawk. At first, she thought it was just a stray sound, maybe from one of the many pigeons that roam the streets. But then it came again. Louder. Closer. Maria leaned out the window, trying to pinpoint the source. And there it was. A parrot. Bright green, with a flash of yellow near its wings. It was perched on the ledge of her balcony. But what caught her attention wasn't just the vibrant color of its feathers or its unusual appearance in the heart of the city. It was the look in its eyes. A kind of frantic energy that suggested the bird was far from home. For a moment, Maria stood there frozen, unsure of what to do. Was it possible that the bird had escaped from someone nearby? Had it flown in from one of the nearby parks? There was no way to know, but something told her that this wasn't just any parrot. It was in trouble. She opened the window, hoping to calm the bird. But as she did, it flew off, darting into the sky with an almost desperate speed. Maria quickly shut the window and rushed downstairs, her heart pounding in her chest. Something about the bird's frantic flight bothered her, but she couldn't quite put her finger on it. Outside, the streets were filled with the usual bustle of morning commuters, the hum of traffic and the occasional honk of a horn. But the parrot. Maria was certain it hadn't just flown off to some random place. There was a purpose to its flight, as though it were heading somewhere. She didn't know why, but she had a feeling that it wasn't the end of the encounter. She walked briskly down the street, her eyes scanning the pavement and rooftops for any sign of the bird. And there it was again. The same bright green flash, this time perched on a lamppost near the corner. Her heart skipped a beat. This was no coincidence. Maria didn't know why, but she felt compelled to help the bird. Perhaps it was her love for animals, or maybe it was just the fact that the bird looked so lost, so out of place in the urban landscape. But whatever the reason, she decided that she couldn't just walk away. As she approached, the bird squawked again, its wings fluttering nervously. Maria stopped a few feet away, not wanting to spook it. She crouched down, speaking softly. There, it's okay. You're not alone, she said gently, her voice barely above a whisper. The parrot tilted its head, looking at her with an intensity that made her feel as if it understood every word. There was something in those eyes. Something that told her this bird needed help, and she couldn't ignore it. Maria reached into her bag, pulling out a small piece of bread she had packed for her lunch. She held it out slowly, hoping the bird would take the bait. The parrot hesitated for a moment, then fluttered down and landed on the ground beside her. It took the bread, pecking at it cautiously. Maria exhaled in relief. It was a small victory, but it was a start. She knew she had to gain the bird's trust before she could do anything else. But, as she watched the parrot eat, she began to feel the weight of the situation settle in. The bird was far from its natural habitat. Its feathers were slightly ruffled, and its movements seemed erratic. It wasn't just hungry. It was frightened. And that made Maria realize something. This bird was in danger. It wasn't just a stray. It had been abandoned. The thought made her stomach twist. The city wasn't kind to animals, especially exotic ones like this parrot. There were predators, traffic, and worse, people who would take advantage of such a creature. Maria knew she had to act fast. But how? She stood up and looked around, wondering if anyone nearby recognized the bird. It was a strange feeling, being responsible for something so fragile, so far out of place. Maria knew she had no idea where the parrot had come from, but it was clear now that she couldn't leave it there. Then, as if to complicate things further, the parrot took off again, but this time it didn't go far. It perched on a nearby tree, its wings flapping in the air, as if signaling that it wasn't ready to leave, but also wasn't quite ready to trust Maria. Fear crept back into her chest. If she didn't act now, the bird might fly away for good. Maria's heart raced. She could feel the urgency growing in her veins. She had to be careful. Too fast, and the parrot would panic. Too slow, and it might slip away. She took a deep breath, then slowly inched toward the tree. She had an idea. There was a pet store just down the street, a small one with a reputation for helping local pet owners with all kinds of animals, even the unusual ones. If anyone could help with a lost parrot, it was them. Maria made up her mind in that moment. With the parrot still watching from the tree, Maria sprinted to the store, hoping the bird would stay where it was. When she returned with a small cage, she felt a surge of hope. The store owner had given her the cage and a packet of bird treats, explaining that parrots were drawn to food and a safe space. Maria approached the tree slowly, holding the cage out in front of her. She opened the door and placed some of the bird treats inside. The parrot, hesitant at first, looked at the cage and then at her. She spoke softly to it, coaxing it with a few more crumbs of bread. And then, after what felt like an eternity, the parrot took the plunge. It hopped into the cage, drawn in by the promise of safety. Maria's heart soared. She had done it. As she closed the door gently, she realized just how much she had feared losing the bird. And now, as she held it safely in her hands, she felt a deep sense of relief. The bird wasn't just a random stranger in the city anymore. It was part of her story. And in that small, unexpected moment, Maria had found a purpose. She would take the bird home, figure out where it came from, and make sure it was safe. In the end, the experience wasn't just about saving a parrot. It was about reminding herself that sometimes, when things seem calm and predictable, life throws in a little surprise, one that can change everything. And as she walked home, the parrot resting quietly in its cage, she knew one thing for sure: there was no greater feeling than knowing that, for just one day, she had made a difference.